friends and fans of ConnectWise. My name is Vicki Bruns, and I am a manager on the ConnectWise ecosystem team. And today I am joined by our very special guest, Peter Kajawa, who is our VP and General Manager for Service Leadership. Hey, Peter, how are you doing?
I'm awesome. How are you doing today?
Hey, I can't complain, It's hot down here in Florida, but I think it's hot everywhere in the world right
It
now,
seems
except
to
for
be
maybe Antarctica.
hot here even.
Yeah, and we're here today to talk about the Service Leadership Index 2023 annual profitability report. And Peter, I hear that there's a lot of great content in this report, and it's a little extensive. We got like 300 pages of great content for our partners. Is that right?
It's 300 pages of charts, graphs, and analysis. Anything you could possibly want to know about the TSP industry in 2022 and the state of the industry. Light reading. You won't be able to put it down. It'll captivate you. It'll excite you. It's like a great novel, Vicki.
That's awesome. Well, can you, before we launch into the awesome tidbits that you're going to share with us today about the report itself, can you give us just a high level synopsis about what service leadership is?
Oh, you bet. Yeah, we've got a really fun role, and that is our job is to analyze the profitability of the industry every quarter. Our subscribers put their data in, and we have the largest database of benchmarking in the IT industry worldwide. Every quarter, they put their data into our system, and every quarter they get a report back that shows how they did and how they did compared to the top quartile profitable companies in their space. So gives them really great guidance in terms of how to improve and where they're doing things well and where they need to maybe tweak things a little bit to get better results. And so it's a lot of fun. We get to work with every quarter where we meet in person at peer groups with hundreds of TSPs and get to really understand what's going on in their businesses and help them improve, and what could be better than that. So
Right.
in
By
the
making
process,
data driven decisions, is that what you're telling me?
that's exactly what I'm telling you. And all kidding aside, the report, the 300 pages that are in there, that's pulling from analysis that we've done on the data sample that we've got with the partners. So because of the amount of data that we're pulling in about providers all over the world every quarter, we're in a really unique position to understand the industry and what's driving profitability, understand some differences regionally, and be able to provide guidance back to exactly that, to help providers make better data-driven decisions in their business.
Gotcha. Okay. So can you walk us through what some of the highlights are in this report for our listeners?
Yeah, you bet. I've got a few screenshots to show you today. First of all, the full report is available now for purchase, but we also have an executive summary. So the 300-page version is my personal favorite, but if you want to dip your toe in the water and learn a little bit more about what's in the report and get a free copy, we've got the QR code here. You can scan it, and the executive summary is available now. So we have sections on the industry and state of the profitability in the industry. We also have data in here on M&A valuations as of 2022. We talk about a lot of different trends, including we have a special section this year on services gross margin. I'll show you some slides on that. It's a really, really important metric for every TSP out there to understand and to improve it. It's going the wrong direction right now. So we'll show you some of that. And last is we added a special section on some geographic performance differences between North America, Europe, and Australia, New Zealand. So that's new in this year's report as well. So overall, state of the industry is great. I'm happy to report that 2022 was another remarkably good year. That's our third in a row. You can see that going back to 2020, it's been a great run for TSPs. The most profitable, the best in class, which is the green bar, has had 3 great years. The median is doing better, and even the bottom quartile, which is historically break even or losing money is doing better. So bottom quartile and median could certainly do better. Everybody should be performing at a higher level than they are outside of the best in class. But last 3 years have been a great run for the industry, and 2022 was as well.
Okay, so this data shows us that the industry is certainly resilient over the past few years. So that's great news. Okay, what else we got?
Yeah, great news. Yeah, if you'd, I was running a pretty large MSP back in 2020. If you'd have told me back in March of 2020 that the next 3 years in the industry would look like this, I would have thought you were crazy. COVID and the additional need for support and all of the things that came as a result of that have been really great for the industry.
Amazing.
Value creation, as we mentioned, we talk about M&A, and this shows you the 5-year value creation for approximate company values for MSPs. We have charts like this in there for other predominant business models that we benchmark as well. So VARs or product centric and several others, you'll see this type of chart. This is a remarkable story though. The MSP space, you can see the revenue growth, 5-year revenue growth from 4 million average up to 7.5 million, almost 2x over 5 years. Growth in adjusted EBITDA dollars, growth in adjusted EBITDA as a percentage. So last year, 12.6%, and recurring revenue as a percentage of revenue grew as well. So all of these are things that move the needle on valuations. And as a result, you can see the black line showing the trend on valuations, the average MSP's valuation. So tons of M&A activity going on right now. This is a big part of the reason why the industry since 2018 has really remarkably improved valuations.
That's
We've got
great.
a lot of data.
I just wanted to say real quick, for everybody that's tuning in, make sure that you're checking out the comments section because there is the free executive report download link listed there. Not to stop you. We're on a great roll, Peter. Keep going.
No, that's all right. No, thanks. Glad to hear we've got that available. So you'll see a lot of data in here on revenue growth. This is showing average MSP's revenue growth, which compound annual growth year over year was 23%. Really exciting is that 23% is about 2x the historical norm. So great year of growth. But the even better was the MSP revenue, managed service revenue grew 30%. So the single most important revenue line item for any managed service provider is its managed service growth. And so not only did revenue grow, but it wasn't based on a sugar high. It was based on growing in the right areas of the business. So you'll see a lot of data in here in the report about private equity. We analyzed private equity backed MSPs, and you can see the much faster growth rate year over year for our private equity friends. A lot of this, most of it is fueled by acquisitions. So they're spending a lot of money to go out and buy other companies and roll them in. So 76.7% compound annual growth rate there, and 90% growth in managed services. Our VARs, we benchmark product centric, or VARs, as another one of our PBMs. And there the growth is a little slower. A lot of that was due to supply chain challenges that existed in the first half of last year. So you can see the down in Q1. But the other thing to note is the VARs are trying to transition into a recurring revenue model, managed services model, and they're struggling a little bit more to do it. Managed service growth rate for the VARs was only 10%, not 30%. As I mentioned earlier, Vicky, our friends in Europe and in Australia, New Zealand, we added a special section this year. This is one of the slides out of it, and it's showing some of the differences between the geos. So product gross margin on this sheet shows product gross margin. You can see that North America is the highest. Service gross margin, Europe is actually the highest, quite a bit higher. And North America is the lowest for service gross margin. So North America, time to kick it in a little bit there. Good job to our Europe friends. And sales and marketing expense as a percentage of gross margin dollars. So how much is it? How much are you spending on sales and marketing relative to the gross margin dollars you're bringing in? Europe was actually Asia, Australia, New Zealand was spending the most, and Europe was spending the least. So it's expensive bringing in a new client in our industry, but really important to make sure you're optimizing those dollars and bringing in high gross margin clients as you spend that money. And back office spending, Australia, New Zealand ran the most efficient back office operations, but all of them were right around that 53 to 55% for as a percentage of gross margin. So there are a few differences. Biggest difference is on the bottom. Profitability, adjusted EBITDA. North America is at 11.7%. Europe's at 6.2%. So big opportunity to grow those businesses in Australia, New Zealand, and Europe, and learn from some of the lessons that North America has learned the hard way and is now a little bit ahead on.
Well, let me ask you a question, Peter. So this perspective of the report is different from prior versions because it has more of this global data, right?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Just wanted to
Yeah.
make sure that I was on the same page. So great. So more comprehensive global data to help our partners and TSPs all over the world to be able to leverage this information for their business.
Yeah, you bet. It was based on a lot of demand. So Vicki, as you know, ConnectWise has a lot of great partners in all over the world, and a concentration in Europe and a concentration in Australia, New Zealand, especially. And service leadership's had a lot of demand from those clients to publish more specific regional data. And it's been interesting as we've dug into it. What we found is that what drives profitability and success isn't that different. It's really very similar in the US and Australia, New Zealand, and in Europe. You got to run your business in a certain way and go to market in a certain way. If you do those things, you're going to be successful. So, but that being said, there are some subtle differences. So we're trying to make sure that we provide as much data as we can.
Yeah, that makes sense. So what is included in the executive report versus what is listed in the 300, the big version, the full version?
The executive were a few slides. Like we have another special section where we analyzed five operational maturity level traits. And one of those is shown here, and that's technology standardization or tech stack standardization. And so we show the correlation between being higher OML and profitability. And you can see here, if you're OML 5 versus OML 1, about twice the profitability, and especially jumps at OML 3. And service gross margin goes from 31.6 to 59.9. So huge difference in margin if you're highly standardized. So we've got some analysis. So to answer your question, you'll see more of the analysis and narrative. And we just hit on a few of these things in the executive summary. So if you want to really see the meat of the data, you definitely want to get the full report and flip through it.
Okay, great. And I believe, and I know there's probably some more wonderful information you're going to share on these slides with us, Peter, but I was just going to say, and thank you, we've got our webinar that's coming up on August 3rd that you can check out the more information in the comments section of YouTube or LinkedIn or Facebook, however you're joining us today. And the great thing is that, Peter, you're going to be guiding us through it, right? And tell us what to expect.
Yeah, next week's webinar, we'll be able to do a deeper dive on all of these things, and it'll be really fun. We'll go into some detail on a lot of the data that we're pulling. That today we're just giving a little bit of a flavor of. Next Thursday on the webinar, we'll go into a lot more substantial detail on it. And anybody who attends, we welcome any questions as well. We get a lot of great questions coming in about the data and about what we're seeing as trends and other things that we may or may not have a perspective on, but it's fun to listen to what questions the MSPs and TSPs out there have.
Yeah, that's great. And I believe you're also doing a drawing, right? They're going to do a drawing for a free report of the full version during that webinar. So make sure that you register So that way you could be the lucky winner of that report.
Yeah, that's something brand new this year. So the report itself grew in size. Last year's report was about 250 pages. And every year we have the luxury of saying, is there anything interesting in here to us that maybe would be interesting to others and that we want to do a deeper dive on?
Mm-hmm.
And so one of those sections, I just talked about the OML correlation. Another section that is brand new this year that we added is we've got a whole analysis section on infrastructure service gross margin. So services gross margin is what's left after you pay for your tool cost and the cost of your people to do your services work. So if I'm a managed service provider, for example, I've got all these things I'm doing for my clients, and I'm getting revenue and monthly recurring revenue in the managed service agreement to do those things. But it's not all, doesn't all go to bottom line. I have to pay my team who's doing those services, and I've got to pay for tools like ConnectWise tools to enable me to be efficient and run my business and really deliver great quality results to my customers. So what's left, the formula for services gross margin is services revenue minus cost of goods, and the cost of goods is the tools and the people. So that's really what's left from that, the gross margin. That's really the gasoline that runs our engine as an industry. Really, really important. And so that's one of the things that we focus in on with our reporting. And what we found was that there's been a erosion of services gross margin we've seen over the years. So we decided to go deeper on it and try to figure out really what's going on. So we looked at, is it a seasonality issue? And as you can see here, there's a little bit of seasonality to it. You see in Q4 every year, there's some cost pull forward. But generally speaking, the trend over going back to 2018 is a downward trend. So regardless of seasonality. Is it something that's affecting just the bottom quartile? And we looked, and nope. Best in class is going back to 2013. They have a downward trend, although a little bit more positive last year. But the median has a downward trend. Everybody in bottom quartile. So you can see the trend lines, the dotted lines. So without giving it all away, we have several more slides in there, Vicki, but I've got to leave you hanging for next Thursday. I can't tell you exactly what's causing our downward services gross margin trend. We'll for sure cover it again though next week.
That's great. We'll talk about a cliffhanger. Well, for all of you tuning in, please make sure that you take the time to attend this webinar. You can also download the free executive summary, the profitability report. That link is listed right below us, Peter. And so, all right, well, you've talked to us a little bit about what to anticipate for the webinar. We know that there's the opportunity to get the executive summary. There's the opportunity to win a profitability report if you attend the webinar next week. Is there anything else that you want to leave our audience with today before we bid you adieu and see you next week?
I think that's good for today, Vicki. We'll look forward to seeing everybody again next week.
All right, that sounds good. Thank you so much for tuning in, folks. We'll see you soon.